Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, I have just returned from my outdoor escape, a weekend break at Croyd Bay, which is my favourite place in the world. And if you do pop over to my Instagram at Neil C. Hughes, you'll see an image of me climbing a large pole. I might be an ageing podcaster, but I do still try and go out on mini adventures. But here I am, back for today's episode, and I've invited Varun Talwar from Tetrate onto the podcast. And Tetrate is an enterprise-ready service mesh company that is on a mission to connect the world's services and connect the next generation of cloud networking. And as an industry leader and veteran, today's guest has nearly 2 decades of global experience in the tech industry, and not only is he the co-founder of Tetrate, but he's also the co-creator of gRPC and Istio projects, and he served as the PM on those projects during his tenure at Google. And he's also passionate about creating a safer and more responsible path to modernization for enterprises. But enough scene setting from me. Buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with him now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Neil. Of course. My name is Varun. I'm a co-founder of a company called Tetrate, and we are building an application-aware connectivity platform, application-aware networking platform, and we're building it on best of open source technologies out there.
Excellent. And you are an industry leader and veteran with nearly 2 decades of global experience across the tech industry. But Tetrate is an enterprise-ready service mesh company that is on a mission to try and connect the world's services and create the next generation of cloud networking. So can I ask that you tell the listeners a little bit more about how you're going to do this, and also the kind of problems that you're setting out to solve for your customers, just for anyone listening that's hearing about you guys for the first time?
So, what is happening right now is sort of the next generation of cloud. I think people are building more and more applications, and these applications are getting deployed in not just a single machine or a single data center. They're getting deployed everywhere in different clouds. The other thing that is happening is, as more teams and build more applications, people are breaking up those applications into what is industry has been calling microservices, which is basically a organizational concept to get developer agility, which is like you break apart that thing into smaller things so that individual teams can run faster. Now, so if you think about those two trends, when you deploy things in different clouds and when you break apart application into smaller pieces, what really comes in between is your network. And we've traditionally, when you think networking, people start thinking wires and routers and all of the lower layer concepts. But really, this is about how do I connect applications and APIs and services that people are writing, be it written by you, by your teammates, by third parties, by cloud providers. And really what we are solving for is making all that connectivity seamless via an application-aware network and a connectivity platform. And that's what Tetrate is solving for. That's what we call an enterprise-ready service mesh. The roots of this are from open source technologies and projects which are really getting popular in the community already. So, there is a growing demand for these kind of connectivities. So if you think about at the end, what gets solved for people is, when I'm connecting applications, I don't have to worry about security. Like, should I be the one encrypting it? Should I be the one doing authorization on that? Should I be what happens if there is connectivity failures? Who's responsible for retries and timeouts and making sure the connectivity is always resilient? These are all things that are outside the purview of like the core application logic that the application developer is writing. And so you don't want him or her to worry about that. And it's something that you want built into the platform that you're running your applications on. And that's what we are building towards.
And like you said, there is increasing demand in this space at the moment. I'm curious, what advancements are you seeing in the service mesh sector?
Yeah, so really the term came about, about 4 or 5 years ago at this point, and was very naive in the beginning in terms of just being able to connect a few services running in a single environment. It really started off with just Kubernetes only as the compute platform that it supported, because that's where Google and the other originators sort of decided to focus it on. But where it's going is it's becoming pervasive. So people want it across different clusters, across different computes, in different clouds. So that's one thing that is we are seeing. People want it to work seamlessly everywhere. The second dimension to this is usability, which is people just want it to be the install upgrades and management of this to be seamless, and really for this to pervade into the platform in a way that they don't have to worry about it and they can just use it. And that's a good sign, right? That's like a sign of a maturing technology. In any mature technology, eventually tends to sort of fade away in the background, that it just works and you don't see it. So it's on its path to that, which means it's going to become mainstream. So in that sense, an early sign of that. And on the other side, we do see a lot of need for education, and like, what is it and who's going to use it, and how do I consume it as an application developer, or how do I even make a decision in my organization to deploy one as a leader or as a technology leader or a CIO or a CTO. So there is quite a bit of work needed on education, on best practices, on patterns, anti-patterns. And I think those are areas where we are putting a lot of energy in. Recently, we have launched a fully free online course for like service mesh Istio fundamental. Istio is one manifestation of service mesh, which is really popular. And so we launched an Istio fundamentals course, as well as recently we launched a certification program where like you can take an exam and go through it and actually get certified in these technologies. So, we are doing our bit to help people gain more knowledge here.
And the tech landscape has dramatically changed in the last 12 to 18 months. And I think every business has been forced to adapt and evolve accordingly. So I'm curious, if we compare your industry learnings from 2020 and the expectations for the first half of 2021, where we are now, is there anything that has changed, and what excites you about the road ahead?
Yeah, I mean, 2020 has been a surprising and a difficult year, right, for a lot of people. So the thing for us is it's for our industry and for our space is it's actually become a catalyst. So we are seeing acceleration of people moving to cloud, people's reliance on their online businesses is so much higher now, right? So in a world of like no physical stores and no physical educational institutions or libraries, or like so much of stuff has moved to online as the primary channel, which means uh, people want that much more reliability out of their infrastructure and their online presence that they have. And the other thing is, with so many more users and payments and data having online, the concern about everything being secure and encrypted and all of that has also risen up, right? And especially with more and more, like, even remote workers and remote partners accessing all of their data. So overall, the sentiment around reliability of applications, security of applications has gone up, which is something we help address. And I think from a cost standpoint also, more people are moving towards OpEx than CapEx. So we see an acceleration of move to the public cloud and those kind of billing models. So overall, it's it helps us as a catalyst for our business. And I think I really hope the world comes to normal soon, and I'm sure everybody does. But I think this is going to have a lasting effect, that this online way of interacting and the percentage of business done through these channels is going to stay significant, even after we are back to normal.
And I think for a long time, businesses were used to doing certain things in a certain way and quite reluctant to change. But of course, all that is out the window now, and people are starting to explore a new art of the possible. So for any business leader or decision maker listening, what would you say are the pros and cons of this next generation of cloud networking?
So what I would say is, built on best of open source gives you quite a bit of advantages of open source in terms of access to the technology, the code base, the people, and that's a great thing. Second is sort of it's a lot more reliable in terms of the technologies that have been growing up in these projects. These projects are becoming a lot more production ready and reliable. So sometimes there's a concern of like, hey, is this really ready for prime time? And I think specifically for some of the core data plane like project like Envoy, or the core control plane project like Istio, I think I do want to communicate that there is widespread adoption, and there are big brands running their application traffic through these modern cloud networking stacks, and that should give the comfort that they can move towards it. The third is, I think, there's a strong emotion for not being vendor locked in, and for building platforms that don't lock organizations into a given stack or a given vendor. And these modern service mesh projects actually enable you to do that, and build reliability, encryption, security, observability in a way that it is not locking you in to any platform, and at the same time not having your developers to build it into their applications. In terms of cons, I think it is new, so there is definitely an education curve. Find talent that knows this readily. It's so that those are challenges and cons of like any new upcoming area. The hope and the positive thing there is that it's growing every day, every month. So hopefully that's just it's a matter of time before there is a lot more widespread knowledge base and a widespread talent pool available that can help address that.
Excellent. And I'm sure you get to hear a lot of myths and misconceptions as you're scrolling up and down your news feed, or the things that you're hearing on podcasts or newspapers, magazines, or the TV. Are there any myths or misconceptions that you can finally lay to rest with us today?
Yeah, I mean, in any field, there always start some of these misconceptions which actually travel faster than truth. So I would say in one big one that I hear is that service mesh is only for containers and Kubernetes. And I think that's far from truth. Like, in terms of what it enables, in terms of your consistent way to do application operations and reliability of applications and security of applications, everything that we've talked about, that is something that organizations need everywhere, be it deployed in Kubernetes or virtual machines or bare metal or serverless or wherever, right? So I think it's a concept, and the technology works all the computes, and you want it that way. And that's where the real benefit comes from, and that's where majority of the organizations are, and therefore it works there, and it is very important that they work there. The second is about sequencing of adoption. So there is a misconception of that I adopt service mesh after Kubernetes. So what people are doing is basically, here are the applications that are running, the traditional applications, and now I need to first containerize them, and that's a long project for them. And once containerized, and then they decide to go into a technology like Kubernetes, and then they say, okay, now I'm going to inject something like a service mesh. Instead, is a better path is adopting service mesh before even Kubernetes, and this is somewhat of contrarian to popular belief, and hence a misconception. But service mesh can actually help you go towards Kubernetes faster by setting up your cloud, sort of your networking stack, in a way that you can move there faster, and you can move there faster in a reliable and secure way. So making investment there sooner is actually a smarter approach. Yeah, those are two I would say that I hear most commonly.
And as businesses are looking to explore the art of the possible now, are there any tips or advice that you can offer listeners on transforming application networking?
Yeah, absolutely. So one is, it's a very powerful technology, and it is invasive in the sense that it's into your traffic. So work with people who know this well, and of course, with selfishly, you can contact Tetrate if you want to. But the key thing is to think about how the adoption of this technology is makes sense in your organization, and coming up with blueprint architectures of, this is a blueprint that would work in my organization, setting that up, getting your platform teams bought into that architecture, and then going towards adoption is usually a more successful path. Another, I would say, is make sure that the business problems that you're trying to solve for is focused as you start the journey. So if you, for example, if you're going towards end-to-end encryption of all the traffic between my services, and I want my service mesh to take care of that, then focus on one problem at a time and make sure that your blueprint architecture can fulfill that one problem that you're trying to solve. Get that solved completely, and and then move on to the next, because the technology is powerful to do a lot of things, but you don't have to boil the ocean in your approach of solving them. And the last one I would say is, service mesh, unlike some of the other technologies, is a multi-persona problem. So you do have to get buy-in from your platform team, security teams, application operations, application developers. So you would benefit by having stakeholders bought in as you think about rolling it out.
Well, I've loved chatting with you today, but before I do let you go, could I ask that you remind everyone listening of where they can find you guys online, and equally contact your team if they've got any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can find us on our website, www.tetrate.io, or Twitter @tetrate.io, or LinkedIn with the name Tetrate as well. And, a lot of us are in the community. So you can find us on various community channels like GitHub and Slack as well, which are the popular destinations if people are into the open projects.
Well, I know you're incredibly passionate about creating a safer and more responsible path to modernization for enterprises all across the world. And I think that passion came across today. But more than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and share it with me. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Neil. Appreciate it.
It was great to hear more about advancements in the service mesh sector. Also, today's guest's industry learnings from 2020 and the expectations that he had from the first half of 2021 and beyond. Not to mention the pros and cons of the next generation of cloud networking. But over to you. What insights could you share with everybody listening today? If you would like to come on the podcast, or you would just like to share a few comments, whatever it might be, please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. You can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Just look for @NeilC.Hughes. But please don't just hit that follow or connect button. Send me a quick line, just one line of, "Hey Neil, I listened to the podcast, I'd like to connect." That way I can meaningfully reply and get to know each other. If I'm speaking into your ears every day, I think it's long overdue that we had a conversation. But that's it for today's episode. So I'll join you again tomorrow, same time, same place. But a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.